how do you describe it? I mean, anyone who's ever hit a golf ball, you know, a couple of 100 metres and had it land in the hole. I haven't personally. I've come close. There's always that hunger for that next shot to be landing in the hole, and that challenge is there with fly fishing all the time. I mean, every cast is a challenge, and I know the comparisons between fly fishing and golf have been there a lot, but you think about it, there's putts, there's short casts, there's accuracy casts, there's long casts, the fish are moving. It's just such a wonderful challenge, and I don't think you ever get good enough. Well, you never get good enough for that sport or for fly fishing to be something that you've conquered. There's always another challenge around the corner.
The visual aspect of it. Most fly fishing involves sight fishing. It involves seeing the fish's reaction to your presentation. And that teaches us so much about fish and fish behaviour that we can take what we learn there and apply it to the next fish if it doesn't work. But it's also such an incredible connection to the fish world, that visual aspect. It really puts us into the fish's world, and that's what I really enjoy.
I reckon the most exciting thing about fly fishing is that it's all in your own head. It's not a competition. It's not, I caught a bigger fish than you, I caught more fish than you, I'm better than you. It's, today I'm going to go and catch fish and I'm going to have fun. That's it. That's what it's all about. It's in your own brain. If you want to be competitive and try to beat everyone else, you just got to remember it's not a pissing contest. It's fishing. Fish don't care. They don't care whether you're worth $1,000 million $100 a day or whether you're a bum with your ass out of your strides. They're just feeding and eating and doing what they do, and you're trying to have a bit of fun.
What or who was my inspiration to fly fish? Well, there wasn't really a who. It was just, I was fascinated by fly fishing. I grew up in a fishing family. As little kids, we just fished. All of our holidays and Christmases and everything revolved around fishing. We all got new fishing rods and all this sort of stuff, and fly fishing just fascinated me. Don't know why, I just liked the idea of it. Didn't know what it was, but I just liked the idea of it. So when I got a bit older and I started carting hay, as most teenage country kids used to do back in the days when hay was in square bales before it was in rounds. When I was 14, I carted hay and saved up my money and went and bought a fly rod. Didn't know what I was doing, but that didn't matter. I just went and bought one and taught myself how to cast it, and then taught myself how to tie flies, and caught a couple of fish in the first couple of years. And then eventually met some other people that sort of pointed me in the right direction on how to cast properly and how to understand the fish in the water and all that sort of stuff.
I really don't know. My grandfather was a fly fisherman. My father also fly fished. I started fishing at a very young age in Fiji. I was 5 years old and the family had boats, but not fly fishing. And I inherited a split cane fly rod from my father's estate, and no one person started me fly fishing. I just wanted to fly fish, and to this day, I can't explain why. Perhaps there's a fly fishing gene there somewhere.
The inspiration initially was that I got bored with throwing revolving blade lures and bait and cockroaches. And where I grew up in Lilydale in the northeast of Tassie, no one else fly fished. But I thought there's got to be a more fun, challenging way to do it. So read magazines actually, because you couldn't find a book really. Bought a second-hand rod, which was an old fiberglass thing, and a level line. Taught myself to cast, which was an abject disaster. And then at school one day I bumped into a kid who was a fly fisherman.
Oh yeah, fishing.
Just simply fishing.
Fishing?
All of them.
I wish I had more time for fishing. Look, I think all fishing guides get to fish vicariously through their anglers anyhow. I mean, that's part of the fun, you know, you get the highs and the lows and the adrenaline and everything, and watching someone else fish and watching them progress and learn, because As a guide, I feel we are teachers as well. People are there to learn as well as catch, and I think half the fun with what I do is watching them fish and fishing through them. But yeah, the aspect of the sport I wish I had more time for personally was actually to fish myself a little more. I tend to fish a couple of times a week, but I'd like to travel a little more and go to the places I want to go to. And of course, as a guide, you've got to fish your seasons, and that's usually when you want to be traveling. So.
Is not a good cast and a good presentation the same thing? It's interesting, you think about Victorian fishing and Victorian fly fishing and Tasmanian fly fishing. In Victoria, it's really important for a good presentation. It's got to be perfect, the cast has to be perfect, everything has to be perfect. In Tassie, it's not so particular here. You can get away with a heap more here. If your presentation's sort of right, your cast is on the water, fly is roughly half an inch long and brown, you're in with a fair chance. I had a client once and he insisted on using 3 flies in the level leader, and his casting ability wasn't up to it, but he's paying the bills, so away we go. We saw a fish rise hard against the bank, sort of into the wind cast, so he's gone cast across it and he's landed 12 foot of level 6 pound leader and 3 flies in a spot about the size of a teacup saucer. And as you do, you say, client X, that was pretty ordinary cast and you're having a bit of fun. Well, blow me, bloody fish comes up and eats a fly out of the middle of that mess. And it's not just a fish that's half a pound, it's like 3.5 pounds of Arthur's Lake brown trout. And he landed it. He caught it on the point fly, but the rest of the leader was so tangled up, like the fly was literally only 14 inches away from the end of the fly line. He landed the damn thing. Now, you try doing that in the Merri. You try doing that with one of Muzz's bridge trolls. No way. Do it in Tassie? Yeah, you can get away with it.
Well, I think a good cast leads to a good presentation. Ultimately, a good presentation is the consequence of a good cast. I see guys who can make really good loops, good controlled loops, but then when they go to present the fly, they tear their loops to bits and try and heave it out there. So I guess fundamentally a good cast comes first.
I've got a lot. Some I've never met, some I have met. There's obviously those that I've grown up with. Your Lefty Crays and your Mel Kriegers and all those guys when I was young. They were the guys that I followed everything they did just to learn about casting and fishing, and then read all the saltwater books and the flip pallets and so on. And then when I got to know a lot more people in the industry, I got to meet people like Peter Morse and Morsey, I suppose, has been singly the biggest influence on me. As an experienced angler, I dare say there's very few people in the world who've caught as many species as he has, and he's been so generous with his knowledge, and that's such a big help when you've got somebody who not only is a really experienced and incredible angler, but someone who's willing to share that. And he's done a lot for a lot of the young anglers in Australia, and I was one of those young anglers. There's a lot of people in Australia. Peter Hayes has been very influential in teaching me a lot of casting stuff, and the list could go on and on and on, really. Lots of people.
Fly fishing heroes. I guess it falls into 2 sort of categories. There's fly fishing heroes that write about it, and those that actually just go and do it. And I reckon the biggest fly fishing heroes are those that you probably never ever hear about.
Fly fishing heroes? Oh dear. That's really hard. I don't really think I've got any fly fishing heroes. If I had, if I could get to fish with any one person on the planet at the moment, it'd have to be AK Best, but he's more of known as a fly tyer, not a fly fisherman. For those who have read John Garrick books, they know who he is. But John Garrick would be someone you'd love to go fishing with, but I don't know whether I'd call him a fly fishing hero. He's certainly a good writer, and it's someone you love sitting down and reading, and he draws you into where he is. But yeah, fly fishing heroes. It's just I don't know. I just, I don't know whether I have any fly fishing heroes. You know? Oh yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah, people who don't fly fish think we're all wankers. And that probably is true. And at various stages, I guess we all go through this fly fishing purism thing, where some people think you can only fish with a dry fly, or I'm only going to fish with a dry fly this season. Well, yeah, that's where the wanker thing comes from. Because why would you do that? You know, if you've got one day to fish this week, and it's snowing and blowing and it's just not going to be a dry fly day, or it's the middle of August or the middle of April, why would you float a dry fly 30 feet above where the fish are? You may as well just go and cast in a paddock. I mean, you're out there to catch fish, you're not out there to look at them. So, you know, why wouldn't you fish wet flies? It's like Nicole and I, like we'll go trout fishing, and if it's a day like we had yesterday up the Highlands where it was pretty ordinary, I'm going to pick up a spinning rod and throw a lure. You know, why not? It's fun. You're a long time dead. You don't get, if you don't have today, you're not getting it tomorrow. So you just fish, don't worry about this. And that's where it all comes from. They think, oh, you're snooty. But yeah, self-inflicted.
That it's difficult. I think the days of it being an elitist snobbery sport are over. Anyone can fly fish these days, but certainly learning how to cast. If you're taught well from the beginning, you can learn very well from the beginning and you can start catching fish relatively easily. But if you flail away and try and teach yourself, it can be a long and difficult road.
There has been. I think it's been broken down a lot now. I think the days of, you know, kind of the gentry with their felt hats and their tweed coats and so on, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it painted a picture that didn't actually relate to a lot of other people. And whilst it's that aspect of the sport, which I quite enjoy as well, the more traditional side, I meet a lot of anglers. Actually, I met one the other day who's been fishing for blackfish with floats for years, and he came to me and said, I think I need to try this on a fly rod, and he picked it up and off he went. And he's a young carpenter, he's, you know, flannelette shirts, bare feet, the whole thing, and he's the new fly fisherman, and he's out there slaying them. He's catching so many fish, and I thought, nah, fly fishing's for anyone and everyone. It's just not that elite sport it used to be.
Oh yes, there is. There is a massive negative stigma attached to fly fishing, and you know, I'm sorry, but quite rightly so. And again, most of it comes from the tweed-wearing trout fishermen, that dry fly fishermen that look down their noses at everybody else. Oh, what do you say? You know, like, it's at the end of the day, we're just catching fish, and we've just chosen to do it in a different way to other people. It's not necessarily better, it's not necessarily worse, it's just different. You know, we've got no more right to be there than someone who's out there soaking worms. And if you look back, most of us probably started fishing that way. We've moved on and we've gone along, but there's so many fly fishermen just look down their noses at other fishermen, and it has resulted in people hating fly fishermen and hating fly fishing. And you know, we're all a pack of pompous pricks. You know, I've had a number of heated discussions with people over the years about different bits and pieces, and you know, they find out you're a fly fisherman, they, oh, any bloody wonder, you know, like rah rah rah, and you think, well, it shouldn't be like that. You know, we should be encouraging people to come and fly fish, not trying to turn them away. I know a lot of people want to try and protect everything and keep this secret men's business, and that's always really annoyed me. We need to share information. We want more people fly fishing. The more people we've got fly fishing, the more voices we've got to say to the governments of the time that, hey, you know, like, we'd really like a couple of rivers set aside as catch and release fisheries. Somewhere we're not stopping people from fishing, all you're doing is stopping people from killing fish. So we know the fish are going to be there all the time. You know, like, I'm 51 years old. America started catch and release fishing the year I was born. and we still haven't got any catch and release fisheries in Australia.
Bonefish.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Next.
Brown trout in a river. Do you want me to think about that?
Can we do that one again?
Why? That was awesome.
Oh, you know, the cliched answer here is, why did you ask me which is my favourite child, or, you know.
Well, that would be so hard. Only being able to catch one type of fish for the rest of my life I would consider a curse.
Pretty bloody good.
Rate myself out of 10 about 1.5, I reckon. I can catch fish when it's pretty easy, when the weather's good and everything's going right.
Okay, let me elaborate.
All right.
Difficult fish bring me undone very quickly because it's a guiding thing. Like, everyone thinks, oh, you're a guide, you fish all day, every day, which is absolute balderdash. Nicole and I lived at Great Lake for 10 years. We could walk to the shores of Great Lake in one of the best bays in 3 minutes from our house. We fished Great Lake on a day off twice in 10 years.
Always a very willing student. I really enjoy fishing with other guys who perhaps fish lures a lot and also fish fly, because I don't fish lures at all, but also fish fly, but bring something to fly fishing from elsewhere. And I'm sort of very open as a student to those people. I'm a very willing learner, is one way I'd rate myself. I'm also a fairly highly qualified casting instructor, so I guess I would put myself in the top few percent of fly fishermen. I rate myself as a fly fisherman.
Oh, that's a terrible question. Come on, you can't do that. Look, the honest answer is I know what I'm doing for the most part because I do it every day, and I'd be really worried if a carpenter didn't know how to hammer nails. I'd be extremely worried if a forklift driver didn't know how to pull pallets off a factory floor. So yes, I can cast, I can catch fish and all that, but as I said earlier, there's so much that we don't know, and I'm learning every day, and I'm a sponge. I just want to absorb, and meeting new people in the sport and watching them learn different or teach different things to me by watching them has been really, really big.
In my book, A Few Great Flies and How to Fish Them, I talk about the 3 essentials of fly fishing, being fly choice, the depth you fish it at, and the retrieve you use. And I think that if you had the wrong fly, but at the right depth using the right retrieve, you'll still get fish. So I do put a premium on presentation over actual fly selection.
I think fly choice is secondary to presentation to me. I've seen fish eat the most ridiculous flies that you just would never ever expect them to eat. But if it's put in the right spot and the fish sees it, you can just get that bite where the fish has a brain snap. It could be an aggression strike, whatever. Look, some days, yes, it's all about the fly, but more often than not, I think that the fly is secondary to where it lands.
Fly choice is all about confidence. So particularly here in Tassie, I reckon during guiding season, I would probably use less than 10 patterns throughout the whole season. And that's not because they're the only 10 patterns that the fish will eat or take. It's because you've got confidence in them. Quite often you could be drifting down a lakeshore, not much going on, clients are starting to get a bit irritated, not catching fish. And you know it's because the fish have just got their head in the weeds, they're not doing anything. Give it a little bit longer and something will happen and away they'll go. So you just change the flies for no other reason than to give people confidence that, oh, you know, we're onto it now, or change the leader, or just change something. And more often than not, some stupid fish will come up and eat the fly. Fly choice is important where you've got things like black spinners in calm backwaters, or you've got the red spinner hatch on a river, and things need to be reasonably close to what you're doing, but they don't need to be fundamental. I mean, we caught more fish during dun hatches on a bright orange carrot fly in mayfly hatches on Arthur's Lake and Little Pine and Woods Lake than we did on the possum emerger on the point, which is probably your best mayfly pattern you'll ever see.